Has started.
6:30.
Okay, the meeting will come to order. This is the Enfield Planning Board. It's Wednesday, the 28th of January in the year 2026. I'm calling the meeting to order at, looks like 6:31. And members present from my left.
Eric Russell.
Dan Kiley.
I'm David Fracht.
Tim Jennings.
Nate Miller.
Paul Bianco.
Bill Griffin, alternate.
Kurt Conhardt, alternates.
Do we have Linda Jones?
Linda's on.
Hi,
Linda
Linda.
Jones. Hello.
Thank
Rob Taylor,
Thank
staff.
you for coming, Rob Taylor. First order of business, public hearings, P26-01-01. Chad Tupper and Maria Bates have applied for minor subdivision approval to create two lots from one lot at 10 Crystal Lake Road. Subject property is currently 12.1 acres in size and is located in the R3 zoning district. This proposal would create one new lot of 5.1 acres, with the remaining lot reduced to 7 acres. The parcel is currently defined as tax map 12, lot 7-1, and is owned by Chad Tupper and Maria Bates. Are you Chad Tupper?
No, I am not. I'm Christopher Rollins.
You didn't look like Chad Tupper, and I assume you are representing Chad and Maria.
That is correct.
All right, Chris. Tell us what they want to do.
Okay. I'm Chris Rollins, land surveyor. We did the work for Chad and Maria. They own 12 acres with a home at 10 Crystal Lake Road. It's shown on your map. It's quite a nice little property, and they would like to divide off 5 acres. In other words, create one lot, one additional lot. I believe it's for family. And so that's what the proposal is. Now, there is a wetland area that runs along the road.
Yep.
And so we're proposing not to disturb that, but to use the existing driveway up to the sharp corner in the drive as a common access for both the properties. And they're happy with that, and I'm happy not to have to disturb the wetland. It's quite a nice spot for a home on this 5-acre lot that we're proposing to cut out. It's all wooded. There's hemlock, maple. It's a mixed wood. There's some a little bit of ledge in there, I'm sure, but it looks very well suited for a home and for a septic and a drilled well. The property was surveyed and subdivided out quite a few years ago, and the corners were all there. They all matched the previous survey within inches and for my measurements, so things checked out quite well. So no new driveways, no new curb cuts. That's about all there is some ups and downs. So it's it's not steep. There's some interesting topography out there, so it would be I wouldn't mind having a house on that new lot. I like interesting land. I don't like it to be too boring, but I like to be a few challenges there.
Yeah.
But that's So that's about all I can think of to tell you.
Is there or will there be a formal agreement for maintaining the driveway?
There will, yeah, I would presume, yeah, there probably would be on the deed. Because you never know, family sometimes moves, and they would, yeah, there would have to be an agreement on that.
Okay,
So that they would,
And lots get sold.
yeah, lots
do.
get sold. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
are the utilities underground or overground?
They're over the ground to this pole where it's up the GSC 72. They're underground from that point up to the home, and I presume the power company will run probably underground from that pole likewise to the new home, which would be quite, probably nearly opposite that pole on the, from the gas. So it's quite well suited and positioned for going off that pole.
Yeah, it's interesting topography.
Yeah.
You're right.
Have you been up in there?
You're able to see it from the street. that
Yeah.
The topography is interesting just by looking at the
Yeah.
present driveway.
There's probably a few porcupines out there if you have dogs, so you have to watch that. But they like hemlock trees, and the driveway is about at the steep point right before the turn. It's about 1.5 degrees beyond the recommended
Right.
for driveways. I spoke to them, and I told them that according to the regulations, that the town may have trouble with vehicles getting up beyond 15%.
Right.
And they said they were willing to take that. It's not it's a nice paved road. It's dry most of the time. Once the sun hits it, it clears itself off. So it's not a lot over the 15, but it's what, 1.5, 16.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Should we get something in writing from the town to that effect?
Isn't that the existing driveway that already exists?
It's existing.
I guess it is, you're right.
Existing
It's
driveway, yeah.
existing driveway
Yeah.
as long as the new one doesn't
Doesn't get any
get
steeper.
any steeper, which I don't think it will, because that's pretty close
No,
to being a high point.
It'll pretty much level out from that point on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it looks like the driveway almost follows a ridge.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Rollins?
I had one question, well, actually maybe two. On the easement area, it seems pretty well defined on the plats. I just, from reading court cases, easements and permitted uses in location comes up a lot.
Yep.
Mostly due to poor language of how it was described.
Yeah,
Just something that the new owners should be aware of.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And my other question, I'm just curious, more curiosity, in the deed, it makes reference to a Passways in Spring contained in deed from 1865.
I did find that, but I had it in mind, there are two areas that it may have, I presume, because these old wells were where the water was, and I would presume it would either be up where this wetland drained in, and the height of this watershed for this wetland is just maybe 50 feet beyond the boundary. So I didn't see anything. There's another little area that might be where it was down near the corner. It's not gonna influence anything. I didn't see anything, but I just was gonna try to tramp the ground to find something, but I decided
Yeah,
to leave.
yeah, I mean, in the deed, it doesn't say, well, it was, my other question is more of a technical one.
Yeah.
It just mentions the two people's names, it doesn't say heirs and assigns.
Yeah.
So would that even just eliminate any,
Well, probably, I don't know the answer to
yeah,
that.
that's more
but
legal.
shit, you know, it's a protection, to put it in the deed is, someone might, it protects the seller, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
if someone comes up.
Yeah,
But chances are people are relying more on drilled wells than to try to get these old water sources.
yeah, it was just something that caught my eye,
Yeah.
and it's,
Yeah, it
Something
caught
that's-
mine also.
yeah.
Probably you and I could scout that area
Mhm.
some Saturday.
Yeah. That's my only concern, questions really.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, this is Bill. I have a question.
Okay. Is that Linda? No, who?
No, it's-
Who is? Can you identify yourself, please?
Yep, it's Bill.
I can't hear you.
My name is Jill Banowski. I am in a butter.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Two questions, and one of them may have been addressed already. Is the plan then to sell the lot, and or is there a plan for a house that can be shared at this point, or is that outside the scope of this question?
Chris, do you want to handle that?
Could you repeat the question for you?
As I understood the question, is the new lot going to be for sale? Or is that out of the scope of what we're talking about tonight?
I think as far as I know, a family member will be building there, but I probably shouldn't even mention that.
Yeah, I mean, that's private, that's
Yeah.
between the seller.
Doesn't matter for
Yeah.
our purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
And then
seller's
is there a
choice.
proposed site for the house?
There, I looked at a site with the couple, and it's about in the central part of that lot, but I didn't really, whether they really decided that, I don't know. They were just looking at preliminary spots, and it looked good, and I told them what I'd recommend for a septic area, and it looked very doable. And I presume we'll be in there if the lot does get approved, just to home it in. But
Okay. Any more questions, Jill?
No, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have questions? Comments? In that case, I will close the public hearing on land use P26-01-01. Planning Board.
I make a motion, we approve the subdivision as a part of P26-01-01, map lot 12, lot 1, lot 7-1, and the new lot being map lot 12, lot 7-2.
Dan Kiley has made a motion.
With the condition that a maintenance agreement
That can be a
is
condition.
part of the deed.
That can be a
I will,
condition.
yeah, I will accept that there be a formal agreement for the driveway
And is
and the
someone,
connection to the new lot.
somebody want to second Dan's motion?
One second.
Motion seconded by Tim Jennings. Since Linda is joining remotely, we have to do a roll call vote, starting with Eric Russell.
Eric, yes.
Dan, yes.
Tim, yes.
Nate, yes.
All yes?
And Linda.
Linda, yes.
And I vote yes. It is unanimous. I usually try to get written decisions within a couple of weeks. If you don't have it, or they don't have it, tell Rob, and he will bug me. Very good at that.
If I may,
You may.
And,
we probably ought to make a note and put in our subdivision regulations some criteria for these maintenance agreements. Not how they're gonna be read, but just what elements should be included. And something we can refer to then.
Well, we will be doing our subdivision regs shortly as part of the HOP grant, and we can certainly include that. There may or may not be some new state legislation on that subject, but we definitely should do that. Okay. Next, conceptuals. There are none. Select board report. Eric.
We have not met since our last meeting.
Okay. Legislative report.
Can I have a question for Eric? The Depot Street Fire Station property is,
Yeah.
where does that stand?
There is an agreement. It's in the due diligence phase, and as one might expect, they're finding a lot of things. So there's negotiations going on around this being found within the due diligence phase.
Okay. Any other questions on the select board report?
And the old railroad station property.
So that one is, there's also it's a it's an intent to sell agreement, but they're trying to negotiate things up front because of the challenges of town owning the building and the state owning the land. That was taking a little longer to get the formal agreement in place, but there is negotiations going on for the sale of that as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. What's going on in Concord? Committees have been meeting since the beginning of January. We were supposed to have had our first session day either last week or tomorrow, I forget, but the Speaker of the House said there weren't enough bills coming out of committee, and that session was canceled. Notable bills that have come through municipal and county government, which is the committee that I sit on. 1161, which removes the requirement for a TIF district advisory board, makes it optional. I think that is going to pass out of committee probably unanimously. 1531, which would require a host agreement with charitable gaming operators to recoup the cost of additional police, fire, traffic, security, whatever. HB 1711, which is government land use. That's a bill that I brought forth at the request of the Municipal Association. And basically, it puts into law several recent court decisions that say if a private entity is acting as an agent, contractor, subcontractor of the state, receiving state funding, then they are considered a government agency or government use and are not subject to local land use regulation. In crafting the bill, I put in that the select board or the governing body and or the planning board shall hold a public hearing, and it was optional before if this bill passes. So we've, made the process a little bit more transparent, and we've changed some of the time frames for notification and hearings. That's just tightening stuff up. And the bill, if it passes into law, would allow the municipality to gain confirmation that the entity providing whatever service it is in fact working as an arm of the state, and that it is licensed and or certified to provide whatever services it's doing. So there's that one. There was a bill that would strengthen testing and add certification for planning and zoning board members. That did not make it out of committee. There was another bill that would have added impact fees, or that would have added safety equipment, whatever that is, to impact fees. That did not pass out of committee. There was a bill encouraging extension of sewer systems to neighboring towns. That also did not pass out of committee, because how do you do that without money? Another bill that I believe is going to pass provides support and incentives for flood-resistant improvement. Another bill adds a flood resistance chapter to the master plan. Another bill tightens up the requirements for recusal of land use board members. And what that does is, in the event that a member should recuse and doesn't do so voluntarily, a member or alternate member of the board that he or she is on can essentially call that person out and request a formal vote. The way the law is written now, that vote is non-binding. And if this new law passes, or the new bill passes, that vote by a majority of the board would be binding. And that makes it logically consistent with the first part of the current law, which says, if you meet certain conditions, you shall recuse yourself. So, and let's see, the last one, which is not, or did not make it out of committee, had to do with conditions for removing land use board members for certain dereliction of duty or bad conduct. And that's all that municipal and county has been doing that directly, just a second, affect us. We've heard a lot of bills on tax caps and tax exemptions and tax credits, and that really doesn't affect what we are doing as a planning board. one important bill that's coming up. It's gonna be heard next week on, I believe, the 3rd at about 3 o'clock. There's a bill to repeal the commission to study the history and effect of zoning in the state of New Hampshire. That's a bill that, if it does not pass, very likely zoning will be eliminated statewide, because that's the direction that some people want to go. That's it for my report. Kurt, you had a question or comment?
Question on the bill for recusal.
Yeah,
Is that in your committee or is that just a general?
that's in my committee. That's actually, it's my bill.
Oh, okay.
So ask away.
The person who's under question, should they recuse or not? And if you have to go to a vote, it means they choose not to recuse themselves. Are they also voting on that?
No, they are not. And there is we're working on a due process amendment to the bill as it exists. And that just allows the board or the person on the board who thinks that the other person should recuse to present evidence. And it allows the person who doesn't want to recuse to rebut and to present evidence.
And an alternate would step up if it's so you don't have a split decision?
If you have a split decision, if it's a tie, the vote fails.
Oh, fails, okay. Yeah, okay, now.
Anything else?
Here's a question online.
Oh, question from who?
It was Thomas L.
All right. Go ahead, ask your
His
question.
hand was up, but maybe he's changed his mind.
Can you tell us your name, please?
Thomas Lockhaven Road.
Okay.
Just a quick question about the recusal process. I'm not sure if this is into this. I saw a potential bill possibly being brought up about the housing towns and cities that are given a certain status housing development. Enfield is one of the 14 I saw. If something like that bill comes up, would you be subject to recuse yourself because the town that you represent is a direct beneficiary of its current state?
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking it, because I hadn't thought about that yet. That would be held in that bill is in the Housing Committee, and I do not sit on the Housing Committee, so for that step, the question is moot. If it makes it to the full 400-member House, I probably would.
Personal stake.
Every bill impacts every town and every citizen in the state. So if you're not allowed to vote on bills that impact you or your town, you can't vote on any bills. And the entire legislature can't function. So no, you're not required.
Doesn't function now anyhow.
But you're not required to recuse, because every
Okay.
single bill
Yeah.
has that
Yeah.
same.
Yeah, you're right. So the answer is no.
And the bill in question here is to repeal the $5 million of funding for the Housing Champions Program.
I think the bill is also to repeal the Housing Champions Program.
Yeah, but the funding being the
Yeah.
headline piece of it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had the Housing Champions Program, I think, without the funding.
Mhm.
So the program could still exist, but just be dormant because it has no funds at the moment.
But the way the bill is written now is to repeal the entire thing,
Right.
funding and all. Right.
I have not read the bill,
Okay.
so
That's what
I'm not knowledgeable.
Yeah.
What's the status of the bicycle bill?
That's not our purview. Let's don't talk about
It's
that.
gonna be pulled.
I know it was heard in committee yesterday. I
Let's don't waste time on this.
have not had time to view the video, but I'm sure it's
That's the most
amusing.
important bill out there right now.
I think he's pulling it. He's pulling it.
he's pulling it.
Okay. Rob, land use report.
So we were gonna have two more hearings tonight, but they both got delayed for one reason or another. I can tell you that one of them is the lot merger on Johnston Drive, Barbara Rule. She was just not able to come tonight, so she's gonna come to the next meeting. And then there was another voluntary merger in Eastman. I've been working with that applicant. It's supposed to be a two-lot merger. A two-lot merger in Eastman on Paul's Place. It's interesting, I contacted Steve Schneider of Eastman to talk with them just to make sure that they didn't have any issues. I was worried about, because there was HOA fees, whether they would object to the merger, because it cuts down on what they get for money. And he said they had no reservations about that, but he informed me that there was another lot available there that Eastman Community Association owned. And so I called back the applicant just to let her know that there might be another lot available. And she was actually gonna pursue that lot, see if she can buy that one as well. So she just asked if we could hold off for a little bit to see what the status on that lot is. May have told you, I did get to go to the ribbon cutting for Mark and Bevy just a few weeks back. Bill was there. Everybody.
Thank you.
I also got a chance to drop into the future Enfield Power Equipment site at the former Hales Garage location on Route 4, the red building between the car wash and Enfield House of Pizza. He's busy doing his upfit there. It's looking really good. He's done a nice job. There's like a little showroom inside where the Husqvarna chainsaws and weed whackers will be displayed. Got the tours, parts rooms upstairs and in the back, and then there's a shop where they'll be able to do work on Bobcat equipment, Toro, lawnmowers, and so forth. It's coming along real nice. I think he was hoping to be open first week of February. I haven't heard whether that's still on track. My guess is it's maybe a week or two delay just because, construction, so he's working hard. Doing a really nice job. He's done some real nice interior upfit with the showroom. It's got some beautiful flooring, ceiling lighting. They've put up a lot of shiplap pine to make it look really attractive inside. He's very excited. He says he's already sold 4 Bobcats. He hasn't put anything on the lot. So it's just people dropping in that know about him and know what he's up to. Obviously, he's got the other location in Woodsville. So that's cooking. Do have a few intents to cut that have come in. Obviously it's logging time. You've probably I've seen some big log trucks rolling around in this vicinity in the last few days. They do like to get out when it gets cold and frozen and everything's tight. They access the land. There's a couple of big ones just up the road here on Lock Haven and Ivy Road that are happening. Talking to the guy that owns, you guys familiar with Beaver Point on Lake Mascoma?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That is, since I've been here, the owner, we've talked several times about he wants to try to get access to that. Right now, the only way in is on the rail trail. He has actually hired an engineer to do some studying and sort of review his options. Again, it still comes down to the same basic point that he's going to need permission from DOT Rail Bureau to get into that site, and also probably need some kind of easement or deeded right away from a budding property owner. And that was the same issue that when I first started here.
I mean, islands, they ferry this stuff over.
That's what I've told him. I mean, that was pretty much he's hoping to be able to subdivide there's enough land there as this R1, but obviously with no frontage, no subdividing, right? But I have said, you know, treat it as an island, float in on a barge, try to develop it that way, but that would mean it's a single lot, not several. So we've been working on that. These guys in this building have been very hard at work dealing with the snow and the ice and the cold. Been a little bit of an issue cooking down on Blacksmith Alley. No surprise probably to you is the dumpster that was in the enclosure is now outside of the enclosure, and it's in our way when we keep plowing, and our highway supervisor's like, what's the story? So we're after Mike Davidson and Tim Sidor to get the dumpster back into the enclosure where it belongs.
How about the cars that either were or are still parking on town land right next to the river?
We're dealing with that as well. That's something we had an on-site meeting down there. They are aware that they're not allowed to park in our right of way, and that's a town road.
Yeah.
We plow through there. There has been a little bit of, we'll say, winter maintenance issues. One of the ones that sort of cropped up is in front of the 6-unit apartment building across from George's. He created some new parking spots there that are parallel on the street. And our guys that are plowing are like, what's the story? Can we get those out of there, you know? And so I drove by on Monday and they had just literally pushed the snow and just buried those cars. That's on them, that's not on us. As long as we don't hit them.
Yeah.
You dig your car out every day with a
Exactly,
snowstorm.
exactly. Let's see. I think that's about it I'll talk about. I'll take any questions from you guys if you have any. We do think, I'm not ready to announce it formally, but it looks like a very good chance that the Kitchen 56 has a new leaseholder, that's going to reopen. Maybe not as Kitchen 56, but as a restaurant. So we're excited about that. And I did set up today, I talked to Morgan from the Upper Valley Business Alliance. She's new. She's the director of that, formerly the Hanover and Lebanon Chambers that were merged together. She's their new director. She replaced Tracy. Our town manager is the vice chair of that organization, and she's going to come out and meet with us in about a week, just to kind of get familiar with Enfield. So I'm happy about that. And I'll be attending in just, I think, 2 weeks, the Enfield Village Association annual meeting. It's on a Wednesday, one of our off Wednesdays, at the community building, if anybody would like to go. That's kind of a cool event. So, any questions?
I had a question I thought of today, and I don't know if it came up yet. And because we're now SB2 and the deliberative, under previous town meeting, the zoning was at the ballot, not the Saturday meeting.
Still at the ballot.
Well, the voting will be, but any discussion
No,
at the deliberative?
I
no,
don't think so.
goes directly to the ballot.
Yep. No amendments, no.
Okay, I wonder how much the public knows that.
We'll find out.
Sure, Lindsay will tell.
We will have a informational table in the lobby. I don't know if you were here at our last meeting. I
Yeah,
don't
but I
think you
listened
were.
to it.
So we discussed that. We're gonna have maps, flyers, and by 2 members of the planning board to answer any questions that people might have.
Yeah.
During the deliberative sessions.
Right.
Yes,
It's a week from Saturday.
right.
But outside of but at the formal deliberative, in the room,
Nothing.
there was nothing,
No,
They
we're
can only
we're
discuss.
outside the room in the lobby.
Right, they can only
Yeah.
discuss the warrant articles that are, the zoning ones cannot be changed
Right.
out of deliberative, just like you couldn't
You're right,
change.
that's what it, yeah, that's what I
On the
thought,
school.
but it was like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no,
Sharon, did you have a question on that?
Just a question, something that David had asked, I think it may be one of your last meetings when this was brought up, or people can't bring information, my understanding is people can't bring information from what would be on your table into the deliberative session. I could be totally wrong about that, but that might be a question to ask Lindsay.
They've been doing that for years.
You know, yeah, we've
They're
never had
doing
deliberative
that, but if they're
sessions.
not supposed to do that, that's a
No,
question.
You can bring anything you want in.
Yeah, it just can't be discussed.
Right,
it's
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna
not
be
an open
discussed,
discussion.
Yeah,
Can't share it.
Probably can't share it, yeah.
Well,
Well, can't share it,
Well,
so they can't take this in then. If
Well, you can't stop me from bringing in a piece of paper, just like the new
right, you can
law.
talk to the person sitting next to you, but you can't go to the microphone.
Yeah, you can't go to the
Right.
mic
And raise
on
the
it.
question.
right.
Right,
Yeah,
I will confirm that with Lindsay, but
Right.
when she and I had an email back and forth a week or so ago, excuse me, we discussed specifically what could be done and what couldn't be done at deliberative. Excuse me, and also on voting day. And, you know, she said we were more than welcome to set up in the lobby, give
Right.
people handouts. And I think if she was going to prohibit people from bringing the handouts into the meeting, I trust that she would have said something to that effect.
yeah, okay, that was just a question.
yeah, you just can't set your table up in the room, it has to
Right.
be in the lobby.
although
The same-
I wouldn't, there is a question in my mind whether or not on any of the ballot articles, not necessarily zoning, but any of those, someone might make a motion to discuss it.
They can't, you can only bring up warrant articles that are on the deliberatives agenda. There's no public comment period.
You're sure?
Yes, that's, the school districts always, they only discuss, that's like you can't make changes to who's running for offices, because they're not on the deliberative. The deliberative is only for warrant articles that can be changed. You can't change these, so you can't bring them up.
That makes sense.
And perhaps you could just confirm with Lindsay. I'm working on the assumption that if somebody does go to the microphone and bring it up, the answer is, we cannot formally discuss that
Right.
today. Please go speak with the planning board representatives in the hallway about that, but that can't be brought to the floor of this deliberative session.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that that's the formal answer.
I will confirm that with
Yeah,
Lindsay.
okay. Thank you.
I was just gonna say, I don't think, even with, when you had traditional town meeting, I'm looking at the calendar events too for that, but even with that, you wouldn't discuss zoning at traditional town meeting. It's, zoning is always, it's always
Yeah.
completely separate.
Right.
And so same with
Yeah.
SB2, deliberative is just a precursor.
Right, yeah, see, with the traditional, the zoning amendments were already voted on
Yeah,
on the
it came
Tuesday
before.
prior,
Right.
so it was a moot point.
Right.
Right,
So
Yeah,
it's kind of, in your public hearings, we're still set the same schedule.
exactly.
Hence, the public hearing is the planning board,
Right.
traditional or SB2. So
Mm-hmm.
the same, just happens to be the discussion dates.
Okay, thanks Renee. Let's see, are we ready to move on to minutes?
Yep. I make a motion, we approve the minutes of January 21st, 2026.
Is there any discussion, questions, comments, changes?
Yes. All of the lines between 71 and 76. Those comments were brought up. They weren't addressing an item on the agenda that we were discussing. I'm not sure why.
Because it's public comment.
Yeah, that was public comment section.
Yeah,
Well, it probably could have been moved to the public comment section. That's all right.
yeah.
And what is written communicates what they said, so it's.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, we could certainly ask our minutes clerk to take that paragraph and
It's,
No,
move it
there's
No,
down.
you can't.
There's no need to.
No. This is how it happened.
Okay. So, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Paul second.
Motion made and seconded. We will do a roll call. Starting with Eric,
Eric, yes.
Dan,
Dan, yes?
Tim,
Tim, yes.
Nate, yes.
Paul,
Yes, Paul, yes.
Linda,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Minutes are approved as submitted. Let's see.
Dave, would you like to have the third-party folks that are on?
We have them on?
I know It's a
Okay.
little out of order, but,
We have our engineers, consulting engineers for the Laramie Farm project. And without objection, we'll change the order. Well, they're not even on the agenda, are they?
yeah, there.
Yeah, they're later down there. Atlantis.
Oh, under new business, okay. We'll take up the new business now, and then we'll do the town meeting vote and deliberative session after that.
So
So,
I'll just start it up, if it's okay with you.
Please.
Introduce our two individuals from Verdantis, formerly Horizons. We have Tavis Austin and Kathy Conway on. Tavis is a certified planner, and Kathy is an engineer. Verdantis is a very large engineering firm, and as you guys know, is the company that we selected as our third-party review for the Laramie Farm project. We had a very brief meeting, virtual, week or two ago with representatives from Verdantis, Town of Enfield, and with Laramie Farms, Carl Dubé Group, the engineering firm that you guys are familiar with. Conversation was good, it started up, and we're starting to sort of think about what are the next steps. Tavis was really great, he's got lots of municipal experience, and he was kind of like, time out, we need to talk to the planning board and start to get a feeling and a sense and an agreement and a sort of a path forward from you. And I will turn it over. Tavis, are you on and ready to speak? I'd love to hear you sort of back me up on what I just said.
Tavis, before you begin, let me state for everybody who's here and everybody who's online that this will be a discussion between the Verdantis representatives and the board. And when we are basically finished with the discussion, then we will open it up to questions and comments from the general public here in the room and online. Tavis, go ahead.
Well, thank you. Tavis Austin. I've been a certified planner for a number of years, most recently with the town of Stratham and town of Wolfboro. As you're well aware, we put together the statement of qualifications to be the third-party review engineer for Laramie Farms specifically. And just to back Rob up, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the developer. There was a lot of discussion about whether or not Verdantis would be doing review of plans prior to town submission. And I made the same gesture in that meeting that Rob made here. I just put up times out, and I said, that's not quite how I read the statute. So I sent over a memo to Rob. And honestly, I'm not sure why review prior to submission would occur. But the statute's pretty clear that the town can only recoup third-party engineering fees after submission. So I put together that memo suggesting that if Verdantis is going to be asked to review a set of plans prior to formal application, that's something the planning board needed to work out with the developer. I am the last person to say I don't mind sticking Rob with the bill, but that's really what happens. If you incur engineering expenses and you don't have a clear engineering agreement with someone or a reimbursable cost contract of some sort, to me, it puts the board somewhat at risk. Beyond the finances themselves, I see a bit of an issue because as third-party reviewer, we are not trying to replace a design or enhance a design or modify a design, but really, in simple statutory language, we are here to make a statement as to what a plan set does or does not comport with what the board is asking for, either by express condition or express modification, or the regulations just is stipulated. So we're going to act at your discretion, basically. If the board wants to enter into an agreement with the developer for, I don't even know what it would look like, cost not to exceed this for review prior to submission. The other thing we have to be careful about here, or I might suggest you want to be careful about, Verdantis review does not necessarily mean the board's going to determine something complete. And I don't want Verdantis in the spot where we believe it meets the regulation and then someone on the board says it doesn't. That's completely within your purview. I'm just trying to let you know of all the hurdles that I saw jumping up in front of me when somebody said, let's review it before it goes to the board. So,
Well,
all of that with the simple times up.
you know, you have, I'm sure, done this type of third-party review, and your firm has done it many, many more times than the town of Enfield in general, and this planning board in particular has engaged a consultant to review a project. Personally, I am in agreement with you. We do not have an application in front of us. And I don't think it would be prudent to ask you to do any work on something that we don't officially have. Is the board in agreement with that? Eric is saying yes, Dan is saying yes.
We need to be in a formal review process before the third
Right,
party.
there has to be a complete.
There has to be an
application.
application. The statute is very clear on that.
It has to be accepted as complete before you can do it.
Yeah,
So I have a question.
go ahead, Tim.
What first, what does the developer want?
I would say, I got the sense, I mean, Tavis and Kathy, you can chime in at will. I got the sense that they're sort of hoping to get started sooner rather than later and even have like some pre-review done. But Tavis rightly, and I'm very happy to have him on board with this, was like, well, wait a second, we gotta make sure that the planning board's okay with that. So it would sort of be up to you guys to say if we do any pre-review at all, but I'm not getting that sense that you
Yeah,
guys are.
pre-review and the town pays for it.
Right.
Yeah, well, I guess it
Right.
would be,
Yeah.
because you get the developer
And
to say, we'll
pre-review,
pay.
and the application has something different.
Or the
Yeah.
application doesn't come in at all, and he
Right.
gets stuck with a bill.
Well,
Right,
hang on. The developer, if they want review, pre-application review, and they were willing to put money into an escrow account or some fashion that we can control, that the town can then pay for the engineering work. If that can legally be set up, then my question then is there any legal reason why we couldn't do that?
So I'm going to tread into this, and I'm going to put up the giant asterisks with the italics going across the bottom of the screen. I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on TV. I've attempted to play one at planning board meetings, and I've learned not to do it. I will leave it to the board to discuss with board counsel if there is a legal way to establish such a framework, and leave it to the board to decide whether it wants to entertain that. The reason I first raised this issue was, you know, since Kathy's my boss, yes, I'm concerned about the bill getting paid, but more practically, I'm concerned about a third-party review engineer seeing a plan set that could be different from what is submitted to the board.
Yeah,
And what we submitted to you for is to say, this is what you received. We are going to review this and give you some feedback on this. And if there's any chance of that being, I don't want to say tampered with, even if it's inadvertent, you know, a right mouse click and a print, and it's something a little different, we're not doing what we agreed to do with you. For that matter, we don't even have a contract signed with the board yet. So just trying to, we're here to help you, not to help the developer.
okay.
Can I expound on that a little bit?
Please do, Nate.
Because it kind of goes into the second part of this memo as to why we would not want to go down that path. The purpose of third-party review is to have an objective look at a set of plans that has been submitted and is in a review process and has been accepted as complete. The objective set of eyes from a third party. If you start reading into the second part of this paragraph and why they may be interested in pre-application review, whatever that may be, is, you look at the memo here on the second page. There was discussion of how to best integrate the project with the existing town infrastructure. That's different than the first page of which explains well the purpose of third-party review, which is to not be designing or otherwise completing application developments. Advising on how to best integrate into town infrastructure becomes more of design consulting work prior to the submission. And the line between third-party review gets fuzzy, and I think the line needs to be very clear and dark.
Absolutely.
And so for all of those reasons, I don't think it would be prudent to do any sort of pre-application review, and we stick to the third-party review after the submission of a complete set of plans, where the consultant is our third-party consultant is looking at it with a clear, fresh set of eyes, objectively, at the point where we've accepted it as complete.
Agreed. Paul, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do. Anybody can make any kind of agreement they want. If you make enough paragraphs, enough sentences, we can have a review at any point. But I think the point that Travis made that I agree with, and I've seen this in my work, is just the problems that arise when somebody reviews one set of drawings, they get changed, and then there's another set of drawings. It's really, that's the part that I think I would agree with taking this position and waiting for that final application, because then everybody's talking from the same set of plans. Okay, if there's a reason, and if I recall correctly, and it may be in the minutes, that the debate had considered pre-application review by the third party, and certainly didn't disagree with doing that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they agreed to pay for it. Okay, but if I stand corrected, then that's fine. But it certainly didn't cause a tidal wave when they said it. But I think the logistics that Travis mentions here would certainly put me in the position to say, yeah, we should follow the procedure and do it after, have the third-party review after application has been submitted.
It's follow the RSA.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's sort of, I don't understand why it would be treated like a, after a completed application, third-party review prior to that. It's sort of like asking Verizon to do the engineering work and then just be rubber stamping it when we get to the third party.
Right. When we get
After
complete
the
application.
After the
Yeah.
application.
Right.
I'm gonna presume something here, but I think the reason, and by the way, I completely agree with you, Nate. Now that that's been explained, I understand that, and yes, third-party review after the application's been accepted makes sense. I think what the issue here is probably two things. One is the question of water system capacity. And you've got a developer who's, and it could be any developer, who's probably 6 months away from actually submitting an application, let's say. And he asks the town, can you supply us with water? The town doesn't have the engineering expertise on staff to make that determination. So the town has to get an engineer to run those calculations. And I think, number one, that's the question that none of us know. And so who pays for that? The second part of that, about the integrating with the town systems, that's probably normally handled with like a city of Lebanon. The engineer just walks in and talks to the city engineer, and the city engineer says, well, I'd like to see this and that and so forth. But we don't have a city engineer. So that an informal discussion can happen up to a point, but somewhere along the line, Jim has to say, this is above my pay grade, because he's not an engineer. So anyway, I'm thinking those are the two things the developer's probably anxious about, and not how deep the pipe is and how it's designed and what the pressure gradients are going to be, and do we need a booster station, and etc. Yes, all of that stuff would be in the application. We wouldn't want these engineers to spend time helping them design it.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I thought that Jim Taylor and Ed Morris came at the last design review meeting that we had and presented a memo to the planning board.
Yes, he did, and he said there were, he sort of feels like that they can serve, I'm paraphrasing there, of course, but about half the units Laramie Farms wants.
Yeah.
That's based on no calculations. That's just a gut feel.
I thought there were some calculations in there.
So if I was the engineer, if I was the developer, I would want a little bit more surety than that.
Those numbers I thought were calculated based on a previous submission. They already agreed and knew that they could provide water up to a certain number of units. That was already determined.
I would not.
What we weren't sure about there and after.
Well, even then, I think the town needs an engineer to make that determination.
But that is not within the purview of third-party review.
Okay.
That's a totally separate issue. If the town wants to hire an engineering firm, whether it's Verdantis or Dubois and King or anyone else, to study the water system and to make a determination how much capacity we have, then that is something for the town to do, totally separate from what we do as planning board.
Now, could the town then enter in an agreement with the developer to have that work done?
I can't speak for the town, but I suppose they could.
But the developer's gonna have to do that work one way or another, and it's not, and then the third-party review is going to review whatever work they do.
Yeah.
The town staff are gonna be supportive and helpful to work through any issues that come up, but they have to do that work regardless, because the answer right now is no, you can't have a water connection. Right, they have to, they have to do all that work in order to get a water connection. So they have to do that one way or another, and it's not gonna be, and, I mean, our third-party reviewer is telling us, don't have us do this, your result may be compromised if you do, and we should listen to them and not have them do it.
That is the ultimate conclusion of this discussion as far as Verdantis is concerned.
They should not be involved.
The group that does that needs to be a separate group
Right.
than Verdantis. Verdantis is working for us for the express purpose of reviewing these plans,
Right.
period.
Travis, you had your hand up?
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna jump in a little bit here. Without knowing the entire history of Kathy Conway's work, many years of Kathy's work with Horizons has been with the town of Enfield. Kathy knows Jim, Kathy knows Enfield Water, all of the permits, the recent wells, the capacity of this, that, what pipe goes where. So one of the things I just wanted to be very clear of is that it is completely conceivable that if developer A goes to Jim and says, I'm proposing X number of units, which is going to require X amount of water, do you have it? Let's just forget Laramie Farms specifically. Jim might be able to say yes. If the planning board asks, Jim might say, yes, I have water for it, but that's all we got. And then the question for the board is, do we want to approve this when it's all the capacity the town has to this point? So it is completely possible that someone approach water, i.e. Jim, and ask for an analysis, and Jim conclude and have that analysis done. And that can be Verdantis. That does not mean that Verdantis is precluded. Being the planning board third-party reviewer does not preclude Verdantis, in my opinion, from being the town's review engineer. The question becomes who's asking it for it to be done, and that was the point of the memo. If the developer of Laramie Farms is asking, that's a very different opinion than if the town of Enfield is asking, which I think is what the board is drilling down here in various different ways. What I was trying to get to with the memo is Verdantis under the third-party review contract is not going to explain to said developer, any developer for that matter, how to connect and by what mechanism will thou connect to the town infrastructure. Verdantis can help explain to Enfield what capacity it has, what improvements it could pursue, and ultimately that would be Jim and the selectmen's decision as to what improvements need to occur. The developer then is going to turn in a set of plans that says, I want to put a whatchamacallit up on the hill that's going to require X amount of water. Planning board asks Public Works vis-a-vis Jim and says, do you have capacity for this? He might then say, yes, with an X, yes, with a Y, or yes, with additional study with regard to A, B, C, and D. And I'm coming up with hypotheticals because I'm trying to make this not about the particular project, but it's one arm of Verdantis world that would do a water analysis. It's another arm that would do the planning board analysis. This is not like being attorney for the defendant and the plaintiff simultaneously. That needs to be clear. But what I don't want to do in the purpose of the memo.
While we're doing this, because your memo doesn't quite explain it that way. Your memo says, as Verdantis, formerly Horizons Engineering, has a long history in working with the town's water infrastructure, there was discussion of how to best integrate the project with the existing town infrastructure and what role Verdantis would take. And I can tell you, my perspective is that that sounds a lot like design consulting for plans prior to submitting an application, and that is a line that we don't want to cross if Verdantis is doing the review.
So if I can clarify, and you can accept or reject, of course. I don't think Verdantis can be hired by the developer prior to an application to help come up with a plan for integrating with town water. That is the point of that memo.
Right.
Yes,
And
we
just to add to that, as an example, the town of Lincoln, New Hampshire, we're kind of on the opposite side there. We actually are working for a developer who needs additional water storage to make his project happen. So the town engineer that is working with the town on their water system is advising someone like Jim as to how they can make that happen. What elevation does that tank need to be at? He's not necessarily designing the tank. He's offering his opinion because he knows the system as to where that tank could be located or what elevation it needs to be at in order to provide adequate pressure. And the developer is paying for that service by the town engineer, the consulting engineer. So that's just an example of how one town has utilized their water system engineer to help them determine how much water is available and what needs to be done to the system to make that water reach the development. So it's not really Verdantis designing the pipes in the development. We're just as we're supporting you, we could support Public Works on recommendations for water systems if the town chose to do that.
With the understanding that that's not being supported by 676 4B. That's my big hangup with this. Until you have a complete application, I do not recommend that the board has the authority to engage third-party review. Moreover, I don't think third-party review is the guise under which the town investigate an interconnection with a proposed development.
Well, I think we all agree on that.
Okay.
I just think I'm a little bit aggravated that the town may find itself in a position, the Public Works Department may find itself in a position having to hire you guys to answer the questions of capacity and some of those design integration issues that you, Kathy, just mentioned they were doing in Lincoln. Maybe Lincoln has that kind of money in their engineering budget. I don't know, but
No, the developer is paying for that. Even though the engineer is working for the town, the developer is paying for that service. No money is coming out of the town budget.
But so not through a planning board escrow account.
Yes, right. Understood. So obviously there's a mechanism to allow that to happen if the town, Public Works Department, Board of Selectmen want that to happen.
Yes.
And I would have a further question, which kind of follows up on something that Tavis said earlier. If Verdantis were to study the water system, make recommendations, et cetera, through some contract that does not involve this planning board as a third-party review, would you then be in a position of reviewing your own work?
I don't see it that way, because the recommendation to the town is that this is what you have and this is what you may need if you want to facilitate this. The question that ultimately that would lead to Jim making a recommendation that it could or could not be connected to the town under a certain set of criteria. But the question for the planning board is, can it connect in accordance with town regulations to town water? Yes, no. And some of the hypotheticals might be the same. The planning board is likely going to ask, what's the impact? If they're proposing 150 units, but we have the capacity for 75 unless they do A, B, C, and D, that's something the planning board needs to know. The planning board needs to deliberate on whether or not that's an appropriate impact to assume or not assume, or to put a phase strategy together to say we're going to allow X number of units until A, B, C, and D improvements are made. That's where the planning board gets to help coordinate with that. The goal is to make sure that the town holistically has all the information it needs. How it gets funded is really mechanics. The reason I threw up the timed out sign at first was the developer is just like, here, help us facilitate this so we can get a complete application and go to the board. Like, that doesn't work in most towns I've found. If Jim and the town want to have some work done, that's fine. And we're committed to providing third-party review for the planning board. I just wanted to be as above board as possible so everyone knew what was going on or potentially going on. To be clear, we have not been hired by Jim to do any work under this new proposal.
Okay. So if I can try to summarize and do next steps, before the developer can file a complete application, he needs certain information from the town as to water system capacity, excuse me, to serve his development. And that's certainly information that he would want, and information that the planning board would also want to have, because it's in our site plan review. There has to be capacity, and we don't want to be put in a position of giving 100% or 95% of our remaining capacity to one developer, excluding any other project that might happen in town. So in order to accomplish that and keep everybody's hands clean, the town needs to engage a consulting engineer. It could be Verdantis, it could be somebody else, to study the water system capacity and come up with a number that says Enfield's water system can currently support X number of dwelling units. If you do A, it can do X plus Y. If you do Plan B, it can do X plus Y plus Z. And once that information is determined and conveyed to the town, then the town can convey that to any potential developer, and then a complete application can be filed. Am I hearing all that correctly, or stating it correctly?
Well, I think that's right.
Yes.
I'd like to hear it from Tavis.
I think there's likely, and Kathy can chime in on this, of course, because of some of the recent permits and things that have gone through. I do not think additional work is required for the town to be able to put together a number of, I don't know, is it gallons per day? Is it thousands of gallons per day? There is a known
study, Tavis.
Yeah, there's a little bit of study, because we know what this well is producing, what's being stored here. There's a little bit of math basically to figure out what, the average daily use of the system is and the average capacity of the system, and that's going to be a number. What we have no idea of, and I'm saying this from my perspective, I have no idea the number of units. I have no idea the size of the number of units proposed, fire flows, irrigation, you name it. We have no idea what's actually proposed. So until somebody can, until Jim Taylor can say, we have 100 gallons per day, and somebody can come in and say, we need 200 or we need 98, that's where the board is right now, because you don't have an application in front of you for somebody to be able to answer, do we have this or not? And Jim is definitely not in the spot to be able to say, tell us what the demand even is. This is what we have to offer. I do or do not recommend the board exhaust 100% of our capacity or 98% of our capacity or what have you.
And just to add to that, yes, we can do calculations on the well yield and all of that kind of stuff, but there's also a peaking factor we need to look at, because that can matter, when everybody's getting up in the morning and getting ready for work, or when everybody's coming home and making dinner. A lot more water is being used, so we need to make sure that we can meet those peaking factors as well. And so that's why, there's a little bit of work that does need to go into an analysis to determine, can we meet the needs of this development? And peaking factor is also related to, number of units you're trying to serve. So again, we would need you know, it's kind of like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. You guys need information and the developer needs information. But by the same token, we really need to understand how many units, how many bedrooms in the units, you know, those kinds of pieces to be able to say, how many units can we supply if that's the ultimate answer that somebody's looking for.
Eric?
Is it fair to summarize for tonight that the third-party reviewer will not be involved in any of this, and that the town has to, that it has to be addressed as part of the application? And
Yes.
that's really
Yeah.
where we end tonight?
I
That's
think
because
that's,
we're following the RSA,
yeah,
Right,
strictly.
exactly.
yeah.
Because that's the only thing we have control over, is what
So
the planning, we have no control over anybody else.
And they have to address it in their,
And they have
in their
to address
application.
it.
They
Yeah.
have to.
Right.
Well, I
So-
think what they're saying is, yes, they have to address it in their application, and in order to address it in their application, they're gonna
But-
ask Jim for certain numbers,
They also
and
need
they're
to
gonna
see
be
an
the ones
application.
that Jim asks to provide those
But the
numbers.
question tonight is the third-party reviewer involved in any of that? And the answer is,
No.
as
No.
a third-party reviewer, no,
No.
they will not be involved in any of that.
Right. I think,
That's the cleanest to me.
Yep.
Yeah,
It doesn't sound like
That's it.
Verdantis is quite on board with that, but that's the
well,
cleanest to me.
they are,
No, that's what they
I
want.
think they
That's what they're
are.
asking for.
yeah.
And, you know, at this point, it's out of our hands.
A little confused where that went. I don't know if the board can direct on who the town can or cannot hire to do engineering.
No,
But
No.
the point I heard was Jim may be asked the question, Jim needs to provide the answer to the board. That is the correct way of thinking about that.
Correct.
right.
Yep.
And
And the board
It's-
will then say, somebody has asked to do with this, see if this comports with all the information we've received in the regulations, and then that can be reviewed, yes.
Yes,
yeah,
Okay.
when
When
we're
we
in
have an
third-party
application.
review stage, after we get an application.
Right, the planning board is not gonna ask for a pre-application.
right,
It's gonna be, submit your application, then we do third-party review.
Right.
right.
I mean,
And everything else is between the select board and the public works.
Right,
exactly, you nailed it.
yes. And who they get to do it is up to them.
Right,
Right.
right, it's their
Well,
decision.
yes, as long as that,
Yeah, but we
I
can't.
think I'm
get
okay
into
with it,
how long it is.
as long as it's, if it's Jim Taylor asking for
No.
technical information from them, and them providing technical information to Jim Taylor to answer a question, that flow of information seems okay to me.
Right,
That's
If
fine.
it's the developer
Yeah.
asking for design guidance about how to integrate X, Y, and Z pipes into the water infrastructure in the design,
no,
that to me is
No.
a
I
red
agree.
line that should not be
Right.
But
crossed.
that will
Right.
happen.
Well, then it shouldn't be Verdantis doing that.
There'll be a meeting with Jim and the Verdantis engineers, more than likely, to talk about what ifs, and what if we do this, and what if we do that?
Well,
Am I right?
And
But
let me just say, it's very different for us to say, you need a storage tank at elevation 600 versus preparing design plans for a storage tank at elevation
Yeah.
600.
I
Two
get that.
very different things.
And the question of who pays for your work in compiling your recommendation to Jim is not within the purview of the planning board.
right.
Correct.
That's something that the town and Verdantis
And the
and
developer.
possibly the developer have
Right.
to work out. But we're gonna be hands off.
but we have to ensure that the third-party review is objective and legitimate.
I agree.
Right,
That is our responsibility, to
Oh,
make
yes.
sure the third-party review is objective and
Yes.
legitimate.
right.
And so the extent to which any design guidance pre-application is provided to the developer jeopardizes that.
I disagree. That's not what they're doing.
Well, I'm pretty unclear after a half hour as to exactly what they're doing, but
So it's not how you do it. This is what we believe you have. This is the capacity you're trying to achieve. These are things you may wish to consider in order to achieve that additional capacity, not how you put the pipe down the hill or up the hill or across the hill or things like that. Does that make sense?
I get that.
I get
Okay.
And I think Nate's point, which I agree with, is that to have the same firm review and make recommendations to get to whatever capacity level, and then to have the same firm come back and say, yeah, that data is correct, poses a bit of a problem.
No, it doesn't. They're the city engineer, the town's engineer. They are bound by every possible law of
Conflict of interest.
conflict, of everything.
Yeah.
Professional.
I think Nate's trying to avoid,
I know,
that
but there is no reason to involve another engineering firm in this discussion. They know the system better than any engineer who's out there.
Let me just give you another example of something that we often do. So oftentimes after we design a water project, for example, we provide construction observation services. So we're out there for our client, making sure that that water line gets buried deep enough, has the proper bedding, all of those kinds of things. But we're very careful not to tell the contractor how to do it. We cannot tell a contractor means and methods. And so it's kind of similar here. We're saying to Jim, you need more storage or you need X, Y, and Z, but we are not telling the developer how to get there. It's a little different in that that's the construction world and this is the design world, but it's something that we do quite frequently.
Yeah, it's common, believe it or not.
Okay, but given some known facts, which I think are fairly common public knowledge in Enfield, we have several wells that are currently producing. We have a couple of wells that aren't online yet. And we have one well which has an abundance of low quality water. And hypothetically, if the town hires you to tell us, or to tell the town how to get capacity, and you say, well, you can bring these two wells online, and you can do A, B, and C to treat the water in the very abundant producing well, and something is wrong. Doesn't work out the way you think it's going to. I see a humongous legal battle because you've made representation in all good faith that doing A will cause B, which will then meet the needs of the town and developer C. And it just seems like...
Well, any engineer would be in that.
Well, yeah, but...
I mean, by the same token, you could take, let's just pick Lebanon. So without any public hearing, without telling anybody, Jim just brought a 16-inch water main in from Lebanon. He has unlimited water. Planning board says, oh, well, this development just came in. Do we have water? Jim says yes. Lebanon said it was good. And the planning board approved it. And all of a sudden you find out that it's half empty and what's in there is sludge. Same legal battle. Somebody said it was good. I'm not saying that the planning board is absent liability in that case, but I don't really understand. I understand what you're saying, but it's almost sort of inferring that, Verdantis is on the take from the developer.
No, no,
So,
I do not
no,
mean
no, no,
to.
and I'm not saying you said that at all. But if Jim says, "Hey, Kathy, come up with 15 different ways I can come up with X amount of water in Enfield," at some point somebody's going to make that decision. Whether that ultimately pans out and works out or not is something to be figured out when something unfortunately goes wrong. We're not in this to figure out how to facilitate something. If somebody hires Verdantis to investigate water opportunities, whether it's new wells or modification of wells or treatment, et cetera, that's something Verdantis can do. What I'm trying to do is separate two acts here between what does or doesn't have to happen with water, or does or does not, get as a quality third-party review. And if there's some question there, I think the board should express that, to Jim or the select board or whatever. If nothing else, for your own peace of mind, to say, look, Horizons did a lot of work. Horizons is now Verdantis. We've selected them as a third-party review engineer. It just seems like somebody's wearing too many hats, if that's an issue the board has.
Okay. I think that's,
You can say,
I think that's where we're at, is needing to decide, where to go.
I think we've decided. We've decided, I
Well,
believe, that
Yeah,
we haven't got an application. The only
Right.
thing we have control over as a planning board is the review after we have an application.
right, if the
But it's up to
developer,
the town
right, the
to handle
developer
the other
goes to the
Right,
Jim and the select board and says, what do you have capacity? And they say, well,
We
and then,
need to
and
get
then
us-
they
we
decide
need to
if
get
there's,
an
well, how they
engineer.
wanna design the system and what they need to,
Right.
if they need to add something to the town capacity.
right,
And it's all pre-application.
right,
And then they do the design, they submit an application, and we hand it off to the third party
right,
to, does their application meet criteria?
right. We agree, Kurt.
Yeah, but so I don't know where the rest of this conversation
I know.
is
Okay.
going.
We're going around in a circle.
Yeah,
All right. Is there anything else that you guys want to discuss in terms of your overall scope of work?
To me, it would be ultimately helpful if the board was willing to authorize signature of the master services agreement. The master services agreement has no direct money tied to it. It's basically formalizing the vote that you already did to say that Verdantis will do the third-party review of a now pending application or somewhat anticipated application. To follow up, what would happen at some point, Rob will send an email saying, we've received an application, the board's gonna determine whether it's complete or not. Functionally, what happens is I put together task order 1 or a change of scope 1 that will ultimately be tailored to whatever the board asks for at a particular meeting. Right down to the minutes. We're gonna say, the board asked for a review, having determined the application complete, the board is asking for a review of this, and this, under sections, this, and this, and we'd like a report within 2 weeks. And then we will do our best to do that. At some point, we'll have some on a recommended escrow amount, so the board knows what to hypothetically put into a motion at that time. You can decide that, if complete upon receipt of an escrow in the amount of dollars, we'll just work through that. Board can authorize Rob to work with Verdantis independently so that you don't have to have a board meeting every time there's a question. We can go through all of that once you have an application.
Okay, you've been breaking up, so I think we probably got about half of what you said. at this point, why don't we just, board, somebody make a motion as to whether we should sign the master agreement? Yes or no? It's a simple question.
What is the master agreement?
We've seen it.
Have we?
I think so.
I don't think so.
No.
No, I don't either.
You don't?
I'm not ready to
No,
approve
no,
something I
went
haven't
through the
seen,
minutes.
especially after this
Yeah, I went through the
discussion.
minutes looking where this came up, and there's just a general discussion that third-party review should happen.
What was the thing that we got, a big packet that we got from
Probably
Verdantis
their proposal.
back at the end of the year?
Proposal?
That was-
I never saw that.
Well,
We didn't get it.
We empowered the, Dave and maybe it was Dan, I don't remember,
It
but
wasn't me.
we empowered Dave and Rob
Rob.
to negotiate the scope of work for this study. And I don't think from that, then you've got an agreement to sign. That's probably what we're looking at.
Rob, do we have a copy of the master agreement?
Tavis, have you sent that to me?
Yes, that was sent on January 14th.
Okay. I will forward it all to the full board.
Okay. Full
We
board.
meet again
and-
in 2 weeks, Tavis. We can, do you guys wanna do the motion now, or do you wanna wait till you see it?
We're gonna wait till we see it.
Okay,
We're not gonna see it.
Yeah, please
After
wait until you see it, yes.
2 months.
okay.
And ultimately, we're really recommending the contract, not actually authorizing the signature.
Right.
Because that happens.
That's gonna be done by the
Manager.
select board.
Manager level.
Right.
Even if you voted on it and signed it right this minute, nothing's actually authorized. It just sets up the framework for the conditions. But I would strongly recommend somebody go through it before you sign it.
Yep.
Yep.
To that end, because, and I brought that up tonight because of the discussion that led us to this evening. We are not going to do anything until the board engages us. The first step of that, signing the master services agreement, and then either Kathy, or I will show up at the first meeting and have an application in front of you, and we will start down that path.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sounds
good.
fair.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you, Tavis
Thank
and
you.
Kathy.
All right.
Appreciate you
Yeah.
all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great night. Stay warm.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay. So, old business is town meeting vote prep or deliberative session vote prep. Tim and Paul and I met, I think it was last Saturday for an hour or so. And we worked off of comments that were made on this document, which I guess we'll call this a group effort between planning board and Renee's team at RPC. And what we want to do is go over it, look for any last minute edits or comments that need to be incorporated. We're going to include the map. And we're thinking on the back, that this would be like a pull-out or a, just a blow-in type thing. We'd have some technical information for the people who are zoning wonks and want to know what you can do in what district. So these 3 columns here summarize all that. What have I left out, Tim?
Yeah, so it would be assembled like, probably something like this. Right? And there you go.
Okay.
And we'd have, I think we said 50 of them to hand out at the deliberative session. And a couple of big maps on an easel or easels, plural. And, table would be manned by planning board people.
Do we want more than 50?
Well, we could, I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
you know, you figure
I
a
don't know
hundred.
how many are gonna show up for deliberative.
I'm thinking the same number that show up for regular town meeting.
I think it'd be.
I bet it'll be less.
It will be less,
It'll be less, but
but it could be 100, but a
Could be
lot of those
100.
folks are.
could be
you know,
half of what you get at
couples.
town meeting.
Yeah. We might want to do 100, we can make that.
Okay,
decision
I
later.
mean,
Yeah.
you know,
And as
it's,
you said, we can't do that.
Yeah, we can give them out.
we're, you know, we're gonna do the printing in-house.
In the Mascoma Bank, and we can, whatever left, we can put at Mascoma Bank, or we can put them at the
Right,
town
right,
hall.
Yeah,
You could have them in the electioneering section of
Right,
yeah,
voting day.
yeah,
yeah, outside.
Yeah, in
outside,
that electioneering section. Yeah.
yeah.
So, anybody have any comments on this plan or on the documents themselves?
No, I think they work.
Okay. I don't think we need a formal resolution on this. Does anybody think we need that? Okay. So we have a plan. And there aren't a whole lot of changes, other than the QR code.
Right.
Which we talked about.
Right, we're gonna do the landing page.
Yep,
And, you know, that's a fairly simple technical fix. The problem with the QR code is this one leads to the planning board page on the town website. And we thought it would be easier for people to get the whole document directly from the QR code, or to get to the document directly from the QR code. So that's a change that Renee can make tomorrow, and then the files will come back to us, and Rob will run the copy machine.
One very minor typo on this page.
Yeah,
The housing density in the yellow section, there's 1 DU per quarter, and there's an R there. It's not even-
It's the pirate version.
Can you say again where that is at?
I'm looking at the page that shows the dimensions and density restrictions.
Yeah.
And in the yellow section for the EV district, the housing density, there's an extra R. It says 1/4 R.
Oh,
Yeah, so it still communicates just fine, but you don't need an R.
I haven't found that yet. Oh, 1/4 R.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Renee and I had a brief discussion this afternoon. You guys may or may not be aware of the contract that we have with Upper Valley Lakes Lenape Regional Planning is set to expire at the end of this month. So a question for you guys is, it's not expiring at New Hampshire Housing, and with the grant, we have until, I think, September to finish this up and get all of our money and all that kind of stuff. And had communication this week from them about the steps to sort of closing out the grant, which we're not close to yet.
Right.
You know, we certainly understand what that is going to take. The question that Renee and I had was, do you think we need to do, and they would be willing to, a slight extension if we need to with them for any additional work? We are obviously keeping a very close eye on the total grant amount.
Right.
How much they've billed us. We have not exceeded that. In fact, we've got 4,000
4,000.
and change left on our grant. We have not gotten their final bill, obviously, for January and so forth, but that's a question for you guys. Do you think we need any more time on this contract with them? Do you want to extend it for another month? Do you want to extend it for a couple more weeks? Do you want to just let it turn out?
I think we should extend it, because if there's money that has not been expended, you know, we can certainly start on site plan or subdivision regs.
And you said that's fine with you
So,
guys, right?
yeah, that's good with us. So we've started some site plan, and so, but that, being able to extend and utilize those funds that are still there will help flesh that out further, yes.
Yeah, so let's,
It would be beneficial.
let's get to the end of this, which we're just about there, and total up what the damages are and see what we've got to play with. But my sense is, let's extend the contract for 2 months. We'll be on the safe side and go from there.
In order to expend the current work, if you wanted to start to include anything else, that means a change of statement of work, doesn't it?
Yeah, so the amendment would, typically we had the 2 bullet lines. So the first one would be the date that we're extending to, and the second bullet line would be to the reasoning and to expend, or, not to exceed X amount of dollars. So once we figure out where we're at
What the
with
X amount of dollars are.
once they're X amount, we'll put that in there, and that's the, not to exceed the, to your point, the HOP funds, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
If there was anything beyond that, correct, it would require a different contract. and
Did we
different
not
agreement.
have site plan and subdivision in the original contract? I can't remember.
So I was looking at that this afternoon after we spoke and trying to crunch some numbers. So I think in our contract, I think at the time of the creation, it was unknown if New Hampshire Housing was going to approve the site plan. So we were going off of the 32,000. Then when you got word they did, we didn't go back and amend it to include that. So
Okay.
we were wondering why it was a little close and feeling tight. And it's just because we had the 32 originally when New Hampshire Housing approved the full for the site plan. And that bumped you up to the 37. So that's where the extra.
Okay, so we would need an amendment.
Just an amendment, one
Okay.
page, simple amendment, yeah.
Well, let's see where we are.
Okay.
And, I think we probably ought to do this, continue working with RPC and bring this home.
Yeah, and like I said, we've started culminating some of that, and so it'll just be able to help finish, and then also attend the meetings to help disseminate that information, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So I'll have a note of extending for 2 months at this point in time. We'll figure out what that number is and get that to you and Ed. I think Ed signed it last time, so we'll get that over as soon as we got that. All right, awesome, thank you guys.
Sounds good. All right. Next new business, public comment. Sharon.
Yes. Please bear with me. First of all, thank you for all the hard work that you've done. I really appreciated it. I've been to every planning board and every select board meeting for the past 2 years. Okay? So I'm very familiar with the issues that you face. Enfield, the problem that you spent a long time tonight discussing about Laramie Farms, we're almost lucky that we're where we're at with Laramie Farms now, because the water capacity is known. And for you to say, well, that's an Enfield Town Select Board problem, yes, but they're not looking at solutions. Eric, forgive me, I went December 1st with the signed petition, 20 signatures from Enfield residents that I brought to you, that you also asked me to bring to Enfield Select Board as water commissioners, and said, please look at the future capacity of water for Enfield. I was told by Mr. Morris that Well, we won't know that information for 1 to 2 years. I was told by another board member that I won't mention right now, your request is premature. We do not have anybody knocking on our doors that we can't provide water for. You are trying to implement increased zoning. You're going to have, Rob, you already have about 4 different people knocking on your door with questions, for the spring that are going to bring about 100 more units into town. What is going to be told by Jim as to what the water capacity is? You already outlined the problems we have. Now, the select board told Laramie Farms that they have to find their own water for the remaining units. What if they can't? Or the town said to Laramie Farms, okay, you can work with us to find a solution to treat the McConnell well. You all know, or should know, that's very expensive and not an easy fix and not a single fix. Tim, you talked about Enfield's need for finding new water resources in Enfield. That's a critical future need that nobody is looking at. Yet you're going to have, Rob, you're going to have people knocking on the door. Developers are spending money to come to town to develop because your zoning ordinances are going to say the town is open for development. That I take opposition. This is misleading. Your last statement. Do we have the water supply sufficient to serve this large lot? It could be a large development. In the near term, yes, I agree with you. But the study of the town's water system capacity is underway. From this discussion this evening, that's misleading. It's underway when? By whom? You have to have this information before 1 to 2 years. And if you can't have it before 1 to 2 years, you need to stop with the zoning changes. Because you're worried about legal ramifications. I, as a developer, going to come to you, going to sit down with you, going to spend money with engineers, going to develop plans, going to pay you money to submit my plans. Halfway through my process, you're going to tell me you have no water, that I have to find my own, that I have to scrap my plan because I can't find my water, because you know it's not there. So I just really, really need, as a citizen of this town, I'm very, very concerned about all of this. And the town of Enfield and the planning board should be working together. And you're working in silos. Oh, that's not our jurisdiction. Zoning, you can't have housing without water. Both of those should be working together. So please fix this. And the last thing I have to say is thank you for listening to your consultant and holding up to a higher standard of what the RSA says you should do. That's what I do when I sit here as a resident and listen to. I want you every time to uphold to a higher standard and not stoop down. This development, you know, in some of the preliminary stuff, tried to skirt the issue. You asked them to have a traffic study of the 4A intersection at least twice. I don't know if they ever did it. They keep telling you that they were talking to the traffic bureau. They weren't. I had a meeting with the traffic bureau. They had not submitted their information when they said they were talking to them. The traffic bureau had not heard from them. So there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors here with this development. Thank you for listening to me. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. You make good points, and I urge you to say the same thing to the select board if you have not already said that?
They refused to put what they said in their meeting minutes. They purposely left out that information from their meeting minutes when I went to them on December 1st. I went back on December 16th, said, excuse me, you put my comments in, but you left out yours. And interestingly enough, the recording was not on when I was presenting my information. Oh, we forgot. And they refused, there was a unanimous vote to refuse to put their information in the meeting minutes. There you have it.
David, we get somebody on.
Who's got their hand raised?
I think it's Thomas Lockett.
Tom Lockett.
Thomas?
Needs to unmute.
Thomas Lockett, Lockhaven Road.
Yep.
I am in agreement with what the board was saying in terms of not having our consultants for the Laramie Farms project and engineers that are being paid for by Laramie Farms on behalf of the town to kind of do any pre-approval site plan work with them. It's like giving a student the blank test to look at days before the actual test is to be taken. They can study for the exact answer and just memorize the answer and put it down so that when it comes to the approval process, they already know the answer. So I am in agreement with the board on that. One thing Ms. Conway hinted was the town of Lincoln. They're consulting for the town, but then there was like a gray area kind of that she was mentioning where then they were providing help with developing the plan to get to the water source or something. And I am very skeptical of our town entering any kind of thing like that. I think it blurs the lines, and once you go into that, it almost seems like, the consultant can then kind of muddy the waters because they've got money that they can get in from the developer to develop the plan to guide them to get there in what they already provided to the town as their so I am against such a thing. Time and all this.
Thanks for your comment, Tom. Again, reiterating, the board wants to see a sharp line when, between what the town does with an engineering firm and what the planning board does with our third-party review engineering firm. So again, thank you for your comment. I think we are in agreement. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. Our next meeting is February 11th, right here.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Somebody, please.
Eric says
All right, Eric says second. This will be a roll call. We'll start with Linda this time. You're muted.
I saw the eye. I saw her mouth.
You're still muted.
Yeah, not anymore.
Okay.
Eric, yes.
Eric.
Dan, yes.
Tim, yes.
Nate, yes.
Paul, yes.
David, yes. We are adjourned at 8:29. We made it under 2 hours, guys. We're getting good.